Good morning, everybody. How are you? Happy Sunday. Hope that you're doing well in your part of the world. I'm so fortunate to have users from all around the world. So I really hope that you're doing well, that you're safe in your corner of the world, and that your family's doing well. I'm doing pretty well out here. A nice day out. I took my dog to the dog park earlier today. Had a good time there. Had a little bit of a rough afternoon and a little bit of a rough morning. Unfortunately, yesterday I did get one of my packages from Amazon stolen from my front door, so I'm really kind of down about that, a little bit disappointed about that. And this morning I came out to find that one of my neighbor's cars has actually been broken into. He has a work truck, and the storage compartments of the work truck were broken into. His window was broken. So it seems like there's a little bit of a robbery spree happening in my neighborhood, unfortunately. So I'm a little bit down about that. But you know what? That's not going to stop me. I'm not going to let that kill my joy, because I'm always so grateful to be able to spend this time with you and live within the community and get to talk to all of you, get to talk about data science. So, I'm going to be positive and keep moving forward. The way I figure it, with my Amazon stuff that got stolen yesterday, I had ordered a bunch of different cookware things. I ordered some new bowls. I ordered some new mixing bowls. I ordered some baking pans. So it wasn't anything like major, but still a bit of money. But hey, you know what? The universe and God was telling me that somebody else needed that more than me, right? So I'm gonna stay positive, but it just stinks to have that happen to you, right? So somebody else needed it more than I did. I'll be just fine. I'll just order it again. But yeah, so a little bit down this morning, right? But we got to move on, right? We got to stay positive. But I hope that all of you are doing well, and thank you so much for attending. And yeah, today's going to be a little bit of a different session, right? Today Sundays is always a different session because we do these great tutorials, right? I think we've had some really good tutorials the last couple of weeks. But for today, I want to go ahead and start looking at the new series. We're gonna kick off a whole new series today, guys. So for those of you that attended the last series, the Introduction to Statistical Learning book, I thought that series went great. Really appreciated the participation. We took a little bit of a break. We did some individual sessions, individual tutorials, and we're gonna pick up the sessions again now. Today's gonna be the first of a few weeks of sessions, and we're gonna see what happens, right? I'm really excited, and again, we're gonna keep it spontaneous. We're gonna see where the series takes us. So really appreciate all of you being here. For those of you that haven't attended before, I like to use the Socratic method, so we're going to be going back and forth. So make sure you watch out for those opportunities to participate, because I really appreciate when you guys give your view and go from there. So I'm already seeing some people in the chat. Thank you so much. Feel free to start filling up my chat with your thoughts or your different items that you want to talk about or whatnot. I usually don't take questions on Sundays, but I'm already seeing people just kind of saying hello. So feel free to say hello. Don't be shy. And once we do that, we'll get started. So Leo, you're first today. Congratulations. Leo says, good morning, everyone. Good morning to you too, Leo. Hope you're doing well. Fatima, our good friend Fatima from Meekness says, hey sir. Hey Fatima, how are you? Hope that you're doing well. Hope you're doing well out there in Morocco. Unstoppable. Good morning, Dennis. Unstoppable, I think yesterday was your first day and you're back. So welcome back. I appreciate the people who come back. Nice joining you here. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Osama, another friend from Morocco, from Satat, says, hello, sir. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing okay. Like I said, I'm a little bit down. I didn't get my new mixing bowls. I wanted to do some some stuff that I need mixing bowls for, but hey, you know what? The universe is telling me somebody else needed it, so that's okay. But I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Rex, our good friend Rex says, good morning from a sunny day in New York City. Cool. Very cool, Rex. So you're going to spend some time indoors with us learning. But after that, get out there and enjoy that New York City sun. But glad to see you here, Rex. Utkarsh says, good evening, sir. Good evening to you too, Utkarsh. It's morning for me. It's 8 a.m. where I am, but I know that it's late for some of you. So thank you so much for joining. Unstoppable says, so sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm a little down about it. But you know what? This is the first time I've ever lost a package to Amazon. Or, I shouldn't say I lost to Amazon. Somebody stole it. So, I'm trying to stay positive. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But when I saw my neighbor's car this morning, then, obviously there's some robbery spree going on, unfortunately. So I got to be careful with my own car and my other things. But yeah, I'm gonna stay positive about it. Leo says that happened to me too. Package stolen makes us feel horrible. Yeah, it definitely doesn't make you feel good, for sure. So yeah, it's too bad. Naveen says, hey Dennis, I'm binge watching your videos. Oh geez, my condolences. Are you okay? Where has your life gone wrong that you're binge watching my videos? Wow, thank you so much. Wow, I didn't think anybody would want to binge watch me. Jeez, but I appreciate that, Naveen. Maybe you should reconsider your life choices if you're binge watching my videos. Wow. Thank you so much. That's a compliment and concerning at the same time, so let us know how we can help, Naveen. Utkarsh says, big fan from India. Nice. Thank you so much, Utkarsh. And I'm a big fan of all my India followers. Lots of followers from India, so thank you so much. Yassine, our good friend Yassine from Tangier. Yassine, so good to see you. I know you love the Sunday series, and you're all such a great supporter, so thank you so much for being here. Is it Manethia? Or Manethia? Good morning from Dallas. Good morning to you too. What part of Dallas? I lived in Dallas for a couple years. Hope you're doing well. Rahul, our good friend Rahul from the mountainous terrains of northern India. Hello Dennis, how are you, handsome? Well, thank you so much. I'm doing well, my friend. Thank you. Leo says, lol, wait till the Netflix TV show coming up. That would be nice, right? Get some of that Netflix money. But yeah, I mean, who binge watches my videos? Jeez. I do have that long loop that I made of the ISL, of the ISL course. It turned out to be 20 hours in that loop to watch all 8 parts. So I hope you're not binge watching 20 hours. Jeez, oh my gosh. That's a lot of hours. Yes, Leo, you got the band back together. Yassine, Rahul, and Leo. You guys got to get together and do a startup or something, or Fatima needs to get together with Yassine and some of the other Moroccans for their Arabic LLM startup. I still own 5% though. Don't forget about Daddy over here, okay? But yeah, you guys need to get together and do something. Sam says happy Sunday, Dennis, and everyone. Happy Sunday to you too, Sam. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, if you guys are in the chat, don't be shy. Let us know where you're joining from. We keep things friendly but professional here. No one's gonna call on you, so just let us know. Let us know what you're up to. Leo says, and Rex Riker. Yeah, absolutely. You guys gotta get together and do something, like a startup or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like some sort of LLM or some sort of unique AI tool would definitely be nice. All right. Anybody else that wants to introduce themselves or say hello? I'm pushing out on every major platform right now. You're welcome to just say hello and let us know where you're from. Otherwise, we're just going to go ahead and jump into it. Enos, welcome to the chat. Luis Valderrama says howdy. Hey, Luis, how are you? Luis, I think it's your first time joining, so welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope that you're doing well. Rahul says I am excited for the project. Yeah, me too, Rahul. Me too. You know, I've kind of sketched things out that I want to do, but I'm open to us taking different directions and different things, you know? So we'll see. We'll just see how it comes. Hello, Zeneb from Morocco here. Nice. Another Moroccan. I think that you're new. Zeneb, you have quite a few Moroccans here, so let us know where you're from, okay? Rahul says, I'll steal the idea. No, come on, Rahul. We gotta, you know, we gotta collaborate, right? You know? But like I said, you know, if a company comes of this, Daddy gets 5%. Don't forget about this guy, okay? Rohan, our good friend from Bizag, India. Where have you been, my friend? Where have you been? Are you okay? You're such a great supporter. So good to see you back, my friend. Hope that you're doing well. Lakshmi says, morning, Dennis. Sorry to hear about the theft. I think your mood will be up after 3 hours. Oh my gosh, 3 hours. Is that what you guys want today? Oh my gosh. You know, guys, you know, I really don't share this very often. I've told this to my mods, but like, I get tired after these sessions. These sessions take a lot out of me, like on a personal basis. Seriously, like they take a lot out of me. Like, for example, I told you guys that today I took my dog to the park early, right? So I'm out there at like 4:30 in the morning in the dark, right? And I do that intentionally on Sundays because that way I can just kind of chill the rest of the day. Sometimes I might even take a nap, right? Because you know, otherwise if I don't do that, I have to take him to the dog park afterwards, and I'm just too tired. But yeah, but these streams take a ton out of me. Like I'm tired after these streams. So 3 hours, oh my God, Lakshmi. I'm gonna do my best, but geez, we'll see. Michael says, evening from Nigeria. Good evening, Michael. Glad to see you here. Hope you're doing well. Rohan says, excited for the new series. Me too, Rohan. Excited to have you here. Okay, Enos is from Morocco. Which part of Morocco, Enos? Tons of Moroccans in my chat. I'm big in Morocco for some reason, guys. Zeneb says, I'm from Casablanca. Okay, very cool. Casablanca is a beautiful place. I love going out there. I've spent a lot of time out there on the Corniche. Beautiful part of Casablanca. And also, what's that place I usually go to? You guys can help me. It's the restaurant across from the big mosque. Is it Bogart's? What's like the movie theme restaurant across the street from the big mosque? I think it's called Bogart's or Bogies. I can't remember what it's called. Terrible service, but decent food. But one of you in the chat will tell me that. But I love going out there to the Corniche area. Leo says, for the people Leo, thanks so much. Thanks so much for the hosting duties. Good call on that one. Praveen says, hello, sir. Nice meeting you again. Nice seeing you too, Praveen. Hey, by the way, Praveen, I see that you're on Instagram, or anybody else who's on Instagram. Feel free to use the link that I've pinned to go to YouTube. That way you can see things in widescreen when we start the class. It makes it a little more convenient, but it's up to you guys. Rahul says, Zeneb, that's right. Yeah, Le Gatsby. That's I couldn't remember the name, but I love going there for breakfast. They have good breakfast there. Terrible service, but great breakfast at Le Gatsby, and a beautiful view. I mean, viewing that mosque and the ocean, it's a beautiful view. But yeah, thank you. That's the one I was thinking about. Lakshmi said last time was 3 hours. If you remember the the Karis versus Carousel. Yeah, yeah. If we need to, we'll go 3 hours. But man, that is so tiring for me. I'm an old man, guys. I'm an old man compared to some of you guys. I've been in the workforce longer than some of you have been alive. So yeah, like it takes a lot out of me. I'm an old guy. You guys got to remember, you guys got to take it easy on me. Yes, our LLM model is going to be named Dennis, but we're going to fine tune the fine tune it to be less dramatic. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, I love it. I love it. But wait a minute. Hold on a second. 5% is just my equity rights. But now you want to talk naming rights. Well, that's another 5%. All right. You got to separate out the equity from the naming rights. So, 5% I get straight up. But you want to use the name Dennis? Going to cost you another 5%. Servan says, good morning. Excited for today's session. Me too, Servan. Me too. Naveen says, how's the food in Morocco? Delicious. I've never had a bad meal in Morocco, but some of the other people can comment. Yeah, Ina says, best cuisine ever. So delicious and unique flavors you won't find anywhere. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think I told this to Yassine before, but on one of my last trips, I got this red pepper. And as far as I know, it's not anything special. Like I just got it at the Carrefour, and the package just said Piment Fort, right? So it's nothing special per se, but it's very unique. I really can't find it anywhere else in my travels. It's certainly not here in the U.S. So when I run out of this, little Piment Fort, I'm going to be very disappointed because it's so tasty. I put it on everything, and it's hot too because I like spicy things. But Morocco has good food and good spices, which I like because I like spicy food. But yeah, when I run out of this Piment Fort, I'm going to be so sad. Michael, our good friend Michael says, happy Sunday, Sir Dennis and everyone. Happy Sunday to you too, Michael. Hope you're doing well. Timur says, I came from Institute, never watched a live stream on YouTube before. This is the first. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Timur. You're going to find it more convenient when I switch to the classroom view because on Instagram, the narrow view just doesn't really work. So you're gonna do just fine. Rahul says, come on, Dennis, you're mature, not old cute. That's funny. You know what? For my age, I still have all my hair. I feel like I'm doing good, right? Most people don't really believe my age. But, I'm doing well for my age. I got all my hair still, so I'm still good. Since you like spicy, then you will love Nigerian cuisine as well. Oh, I'm sure that's the case, right? I'm sure that's the case. I think most African cuisine is very interesting, right? You know what I also like is here in Las Vegas, we don't have many, but we have a couple of good Ethiopian restaurants. I love Ethiopian food too, right? Like how you get to eat with your hands, and it's a lot of like vegetarian and like lentils and things like that. I love good Ethiopian food, so I'm sure that I would like a lot of the food in most of Africa. Dennis, data engineering and neural network. Whoa, that's a great acronym. Geez, that's a good one. Okay, but see, now hold on a second. The naming rights were just for Dennis. But if you want to do the acronym, that's another 5%. So you're already up to 15%. And you haven't even launched, Leo. So 15% going right to this guy. That's funny. Don't forget to let me know when it's over. Can't afford to seeing our mentor being sad. I will, Yassine. I don't have a lot left. Maybe I'll show the package on stream one day. I have it in my kitchen, but I put it like in my soups. I put it on my eggs, because I like spicy and it has a very unique spice and all that. But yeah. Dang, that's a cool LLM model. Yeah, but it's costing you by the minute here, Leo. You started at 5% and now you're already giving up 15%. Kelvin says, "Hi Dennis, love your channel. Keep doing what you do." Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Just doing my best. Doing my best. Doing my best to give real world views. You know, all I can do is share my experience, right? That's it. So speaking of experience, let's get started. Let's create a data science project together. That's the whole point of this series, right? Today is the kickoff. But the whole point of the series is that we collectively are gonna make a data science project. I'm gonna be the general guide, and I'm gonna be relying on all of you for feedback. But the entire point is that we are gonna build a project end to end. We're also gonna take a professional view to it. I'm gonna show you, and I'm gonna try to cite as often as possible where I learned or where I used these different items, right? Like where I see these items used. But I'm gonna show you a professional view to taking a project from end to end. All right? So, right off the bat, we're gonna start off with some audience participation, okay? Give me a 1 in the chat. Give me a 1 in the chat if you're expecting today to see code, to see models, to see libraries, to see Python, all that good stuff, right? Give me a 1 in the chat. I'll give you a little time, but give me a 1 in the chat. No one's gonna call on you. So if you're, maybe you didn't introduce yourself, easy way for you to participate, right? Give me a 1 in the chat if you're expecting Python and models and libraries, data, right? Give me a 1. Give me a 1 in the chat. All right, there's some ones coming in. All right. Zeneb, Enos. All right, a lot of 1s in the chat. All right, last call for votes here, guys. Last call for votes. Who else wants to vote? Maybe you didn't introduce yourself. Maybe you're shy. All you have to do is give me a 1, right? Nice way for you to participate, right? All right, I'm seeing lots of 1s. Ramon, Unstoppable. Anybody else? Last call, 10 seconds. All right. So if you gave me a 1 in the chat, wrong. So pat yourself on the back if you gave me a 0 in the chat. Because one of the things that we're quickly going to realize is that there is a lot of planning that goes into a project. Running a professional data science project is completely different than the data science tools, right? So I see a lot of you that gave me 0s. Congratulations. That's exactly the right approach. Because it takes a lot of planning and a lot of organization to do a data science project. And on top of that, there's also the client side of it, right? There's the client side of it. There's the obligations, the promises that we make to the client, the promises that the client makes to us, right? And none of the serious data science work, the actual work of a data scientist, can really begin unless we actually take the time to do all this, right? So I'm still seeing some ones come in the chat. But again, that is not what today is about. Today is about some of the setup and some of the work that goes into producing a professional project. So when you see these charts or these other things, I saw one just yesterday on LinkedIn. When you see these charts about how to learn data science and this is a project, forget all of that. That's amateur hour. That's not what I want to teach you guys. I want to teach you how it's done at a very high professional level. So today we're going to see no code. We're not going to see any tools. We're not even going to talk about anything of that. We're going to talk about how we set ourselves up to continue the planning that needs to go into a project. Okay? So let me bring up my classroom view and let's get started with the slides. All right. So I prepared a bit of a deck for us. Sometimes we'll be working from a deck. Sometimes we'll be working with the online whiteboard and all that, right? So today I want to talk to you about, well, we're gonna do two sections today. So in this section, I want to talk to you about the philosophy of what we're doing. I want to have a kickoff, and then I'm also going to share the class agenda with all of you. All right. So here's the philosophy of what we're doing. We're done learning, right? We're done learning. We are now a professional data science team, and we are going to do the actual work of a data scientist. But that includes a lot of planning. That includes a lot of project management, stakeholder management, discussions, ideas, right? This is how these projects are done. There's no shortcuts, guys. All right? You guys know that I despise the content out there that promises shortcuts and hacks and all that. None of that here. Okay? And then the third thing, as I said, very important, data science tools and even the techniques is completely different from a data science project. And we are here to do a project, and those projects have different components, different aspects that we need to manage. And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right? I teach with the Socratic method, so I'm going to be asking questions in the chat and throughout the course, and I encourage you to participate because that helps you and it also helps the other people see the questions and answers, right? So I may challenge you on some answers, but that's kind of the whole point of the Socratic method. And then you will not be ready for a job after this series. I never promise that. I never promise that to everyone. Data science goes way beyond any single course. And you will have to do additional work on your own. Very critical to your own personal development. Okay? All right, so here's the kickoff. Our objective is to take a data science project from the ideation to deployment while also following a defensible data science methodology. We're not going to be trying to just guess and kind of feel our way along and, oh, we're going to try this thing, we're going to try that. That's not how data science is done. Data science is done by following a methodology. Science is done by following a methodology, right? Somebody who's doing chemistry experiments doesn't just go into a lab and start mixing things together randomly. They have a path that they're following, right? So we're going to do the same thing. We're also going to be using AI tools because, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of AI. I think that data scientists will be heavily aided by AI in the future. So we're preparing now for that. And part of that is taking an AI first approach to everything that we do. Okay? So we're going to be capitalizing on as many opportunities as we can to use AI tools in our work. All right? And by the way, guys, if anything here doesn't make sense or you have questions, feel free to interrupt me. I'm still monitoring the chat while I'm going through the slides. But I do encourage you guys to, ask questions if something's not clear. I'm going to provide instructions for all of the major sections of the project, but you should still be researching things on your own. And since we're talking about a project, not data science tools, not model development, we're talking about an entire project. We're going to be talking about data science, but we're also going to be talking about the business side, the legal side, the sales side, all these kinds of different things that go into a project. I'm going to show you the different hats that you have to wear in order to be successful in a data science role. Because when you're working for a large company, a data science role goes way beyond doing modeling and libraries and Python and all that stuff, right? This is the stuff that nobody else talks about because they don't know it, right? So that's kind of like the point of what I'm going to be teaching here. I don't really know how long this is going to take. My gut tells me it's 8 to 10 sessions, but who knows? Maybe less, maybe more. I don't know. We'll have to kind of just feel our way along, just like we have in other situations. Okay? If we need any additional materials for like reading ahead, which I think we will in a couple sessions, I'm going to post them on Discord. So please make sure you join the Discord. I'll post links or whatever to, articles I want you guys to read or different resources. I'll put them up there. I'm going to be doing every class as a live stream. I don't intend to do anything pre-recorded. The announcements are made on Instagram and Discord. Generally speaking, I will do them, on a weekly basis. I might have some family stuff and, we got a couple holidays in the US coming up because 8 to 10 sessions will probably take us through the end of the year. So, maybe there'll be a Sunday or two where I need to take a break, or I'll have other obligations. But generally speaking, it should be every week. Okay. And then if you miss a week, the live streams are always saved over on YouTube. And then I'll also break it up into different parts. And then I'll also create a massive loop, where I put all of the parts together to make it easy to kind of follow along. All right, so here are the different general phases that I envision us going through. Now, keep in mind that these are phases, not necessarily individual weekly sessions. Some of these phases might take us multiple sessions to get through. Okay? But this is what I envision for us doing. And you can also take this to be general phases for when you want to do a data science project. So we're going to talk about the methodology, the project planning, the creation, and then also the deployment. So in methodology, we're going to do the methodology that always drives our work. No matter what we do, we always come back to the methodology that we want to follow. We're going to also decide on the role of AI in our project. And then we're also going to determine the underlying thesis for the project. Why are we taking on this project? What are we trying to prove with that project, and how do we prove it? Right? Super critical for driving your results of your project. From there, we're going to go into the project planning. We're going to talk about agile planning. I know some of you have asked me questions about that, and I think it's a super critical thing to look at. So how do you actually create an agile plan? I wasn't a fan of agile until I worked my second time at IBM. I worked for IBM multiple times. So when I was there the second time, I really learned agile planning. So we're going to go over that and how it applies to data science. What about the programming environments that we're going to need? That's also critical, right? And then what does our training code look like versus our prediction code? That's a distinction that not a lot of people make, and certainly not a lot of academic programs make, right? But really critical to learn when you go into the real world. And then we're going to talk about the creation, right? And this is where we get a little bit more into the data science work, or what most people think of as data science, right? How do we actually execute the plan? And then how do we create the programming environments that we're going to need? How do we manage those libraries? And like I said, it's at that point that we're actually going to be doing the Python programming, the modeling, the libraries, all of that stuff. But that's really just like a small part of the entire project, right? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And that's phase 3, right? Because we've got methodology, project planning, and creation. So we're not even going to do like what people say is, oh, you got to know this for data science projects until phase 3. Because there's so much work that goes into it when you take a professional mindset to data science. And that's what we're here, right? We're here to be professional data scientists. And that's what we're going to do with this project. And then finally, we're going to talk about deployment. This is something I'm really disappointed most academic programs really don't teach, right? How do you actually send your model out to the real world? Well, we're going to need a server. We're going to need to send our code to that server. How do we test our code on that server to make sure that it runs, right? How do we use that server to run development cycles to create new parts of our code? Or, further tune the model, all that stuff. And how do you run the prediction cycles? Right? We want to get something out of that algorithm, right? Writing that code for prediction is like a whole other ballgame. How do you do that? We're going to go over that too, right? So that's really the 4 different items, or 4 different phases, that I want us to cover. And like I said, just because they're phases doesn't mean it's one stream. Some of these are going to require multiple streams. But again, that's the work of a professional data scientist. A lot of this is going to be really just kind of working on the setup, right? And that's okay, because that's how it's done. All right. So finally, if you guys attended my ISL course, you've seen this image before. But I want to share it with you guys, because I know we have some new people. So if you talk to an Olympic athlete, somebody who's an athlete in the javelin, they can show you how to throw the javelin. And they're going to show you like generally, right? They're going to say, yeah, so you want to, you want to run this many steps and you want to, hold it like this. And then when you get to this line, you throw it, right? That's how they're going to teach you. But then you might have specific questions like, well, why am I putting my wrist here? Like, what if I put my wrist here? Like, I want to understand why. And that athlete's going to tell you, I don't know, that's just the way I've always done it, right? Because they've been at it for so long, right? I mean, to be a professional javelin athlete, you've been at it for like, 15, 20 years, right? So that's how I view myself, where I might go over something and I might even gloss over something, like just give you a brief explanation, because I've been at it for a long time, So if you need to stop me and say, well, wait a minute, help me understand that a little more, that's totally okay. Because I might go over something thinking, oh, well, everybody knows this, right? Because I've done it for so long. So don't be afraid to stop me and say, okay, can you explain that more, or why is that, or whatever? Because, I'm not doing it intentionally. It's just something I don't think about anymore, right? Like I've been doing it for so long that I don't even. I just do it automatically. So feel free to stop me if that's the case. Okay. All right. I think the next slide is section 2. Yep, section 2. All right. So let me stop there. I've gone over a bit of stuff. Any questions? Give me some questions in the chat. Are you okay? Are you lost? Are you still with me? What do you guys think? Now, I know some of you might be like, well, where's the code? I thought we were going to do Python today. Where's the Visual Studio code? That's the people that are selling you the junk, right? Because that's not how a professional approach to data science is taken. Okay? But again, I'm trying to show you guys how it's actually done, on a professional level. And it does require a lot of setup to get it going. So any questions? All right. I'm with you. Proceed. I'm with you. Quite intrigued. I'm with you. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for that feedback, guys. Okay. Sounds like everybody's on board. Good. So let's keep going then. So now we're going to start shaping our project and putting things together, right? Okay, so here's the premise. All of us are a data science team, and we're capable of working on any data science project, right? One of the beauties that I enjoy about data science is that it's flexible. You can work in the transportation industry, you can work in banking, you can work for, a sales organization, for an automotive. It doesn't matter, right? So we are going to position ourselves as just being a data science team that's capable of working on any data science project. So as we move forward, we can think of ourselves as a consulting team, or maybe as an internal innovation team. It's very common for big companies to have, internal innovation teams, right? So we can just choose to think of ourselves as that, right? There's some differences to that at different points, so I might point those out to you. But generally speaking, this is what we're gonna do. Okay? I'm going to play the role of the chief data scientist, guiding us along. And then you guys are going to be the data scientists on the team, right? So we're going to work in a collaborative way to be able to put some of these items together. Okay? And then also, if you guys have attended my tutorials before, you guys know that I'm a big fan of AI, and ChatGPT is our employee. right? So we're going to use ChatGPT to help us. And primarily speaking, we should take the attitude that coding tasks are trivial now. There is no code that we can't write anymore, because ChatGPT, has its flaws, but it usually produces pretty good code, at least good enough code for us, right? So that's our view, right? That ChatGPT is our employee. There are no difficult coding tasks. And we are the data science team working towards client projects, and we can take on clients of any type. So Ahmed asks, is it applicable to weather and climate? Absolutely. Absolutely. Lots of data science work is being done with weather and climate. That's actually what my sister's husband does, my brother-in-law. He applies mathematical models to the weather for the government. So yeah, it's absolutely applicable. Ashish says, hello, Dennis. Which platform do you stream apart from Instagram? So Ashish, if you check the pinned comment in Instagram, I have a link to my YouTube where you can view it on YouTube. It's a little bit more convenient than Instagram, okay? But I mean, I push out on Twitch, Kick, and LinkedIn, and also X, okay? So you can see me on any of those platforms. All right, so this is the definition of us, of who we are. So we have a prospect. We have been called in to collaborate with a financial services firm. For the purposes of this, we can say that it's a hedge fund or a private equity fund. And they want to discuss a potential project with us. Some of these items that I'm going to list here are probably more specific for a consulting firm that's coming in from the outside. Maybe some of these items wouldn't apply to like an internal innovation team, but I think it's more illustrative if we just think about ourselves as a consulting firm. Okay. So we're gonna go in to meet the client, and we can have initial discussions to talk about an engagement. We can present the methodology and approach to follow. That we intend to follow. We can present our team capabilities. But the cardinal rule in these situations, especially in consulting, is that we do not do any work without a contract in place. You can have exploratory talks, but you can't really do any significant work until you have a contract in place. So from the client perspective, because I've been on the client side, I've been a client to large consulting firms, PwC, Deloitte, IBM, Hitachi, a couple other firms I can't remember. I have been in situations where like I'm in contact with who my technical counterpart's going to be, and they will and like the company will put a stop to it and say, wait a minute, we can't do that because the contract isn't actually signed yet. Like I've been in those situations where like the company will actually stop and say, hold on a second, we're close, but we don't have a contract in place. Don't do that. Don't do anything. Or the situation sometimes where the contract will expire, right? You put times on a contract, it expires. Both companies intend to renew, but the renewal is not done, so the consultant doesn't come in that day, or they come in late because we don't have anything signed. So that's one of the rules, right? If all of us are going to be in a consulting team, can't work without a contract. One, it helps maintain the relationship and the liabilities that each of us take on, right? The client and us. And 2, it's a business, right? You got to keep the lights on. So you got to make sure you're going to be paid for your work, right? In consulting, there's kind of like this old saying, the best kind of client is a client that pays, right? They're not a client of yours if they're not paying you, right? So you got to always keep that in mind in terms of, the steps you've taken and whether that actually results in paid work or not. So that's one of the things that we're going to emphasize today, because we want to make sure that we're approaching this in a professional manner. And part of that is to say that we have a contract in place. Okay? So, more audience participation. Can anyone tell me what a hedge fund or a private equity fund does? Because they're a potential client, right? They're our prospect. So we kind of need to know a little bit about that industry, right? And like I said, in this example, we're pretending that, it's a hedge fund or an equity or a private equity fund, right? Can anyone tell me what a hedge fund or a private equity fund does? Anybody want to take a guess at that? No wrong answers. Let's just get some discussion going. What do you guys think? Abdul, welcome. Abdul says hedge fund is a firm that's trying to manage risk. Okay, but all financial firms do that, right? Rohit says they invest in the stock market. Yeah, but a lot of people invest in the stock market, right? I mean, what makes hedge funds or private equity funds special? I mean, we got to know this, right? We can't walk into this meeting without knowing their industry a little bit, right? What do you guys think? Rohit says large pool of money. Yeah, but JP Morgan has a large pool of money and they're not a hedge fund, right? Abdul says for rich people, that's part of it. Sure. What else? Anybody else? They work with individual investors and institutional investors. Yeah, but so does Schwab, right? Charles Schwab does that too, right? Ahmed says they take money from people and grow for them. Yeah, but so does Charles Schwab, right? My 401k does that, right? So, we got to know our stuff before we walk in, right? Hedge funds tend to invest in assets that can provide good returns on investment within a short time frame, while private equity funds focus on long-term investments. Okay. All right. I mean, I guess I can be on board with that. Osama says private equity is a type of investment where funds are directly invested in private companies or used to buy out public companies, making them private. Okay, I like that definition. I think Osama's getting a little bit closer there, right? Yeah. I mean, you guys are you're surrounding the answer, right? So this is good. Leo says they work with a lot of assets. Okay, cool. So Leo's getting even closer. Yeah. Okay, guys. So the primary thing that we should be focused on, and we can get into the legal side of it because, some of the answers are right. They're for rich people. There's qualifications to be a hedge fund investor or private equity. So you guys are good on that. But the primary thing we got to remember, use numbers strategy to earn above average returns. Sure. Yep. But the primary thing we need to focus on here, guys, is private equity and hedge funds. The primary difference I want to focus on is that they can invest in just about anything, right? They could be investing in stocks, they can be investing in racehorses, they can be investing in apartment buildings, they can be investing in private companies, buying up warehouses, buying up small businesses. Like, they can buy anything, right? I mean, that's part of what makes them a little bit different, right? Like, if you give your money to a Charles Schwab stockbroker, they can't just take that and go buy a racehorse with it, right? Where private equity funds can do that. So that's the primary item that we should focus on, right? So when Osama was talking about private companies or buyouts, that is true. Leo says they work with a lot of assets. That's also true, right? They work with a large variety of assets, right? I mean, I've sat through the private equity presentation meetings, and I mean, they'll do anything. I mean, well, I guess I really don't want to talk about some of the offerings, but you know, they'll do like real estate. They'll do these very advanced algorithmic trading approaches. They'll do what are known as private placements, where a company is privately looking for money to, you know, to help their growth, right? I don't want to name any companies that do that, but a lot of companies out there do that. Or sometimes you'll have people who are investing in funds of funds, where my hedge fund invests in other hedge funds, like another group of hedge funds, but I alone can raise money so I can go and find and put them in those hedge funds. So again, the point is that it's a little bit different than the stock market or your traditional investments, because they can really do anything. Okay? Stock market options for insurance. Yeah, but that's only the tip of the iceberg, Leo. They do a lot more than that. Like again, I just for privacy's sake, I don't want to talk about like some of the private placements I've seen. But just as an example, I'll give you guys an example, but I won't name the company. But just as an example, like a private equity fund might approach a big bank, like a big wealth management firm, and they'll say, we're looking for a private placement of somebody who can come in and give us $25 million. And in exchange, they'll get, you know, a bunch of equity, and they also get a seat on our board of directors. Like, you know, and the companies I'm referring to are like large household names. Like, you would know this company if I gave you the name. So they do those types of placements, right? Where like they're looking for one single individual who, you know, has very deep pockets that can come in and then also take a seat on their board. So it goes a lot more than that, Leo. Like, you know, they're not just giving stock. This is how you get to sit on the board of directors of these very large conglomerates, right? They want like 25 million out of you. So it gets a lot more complex than just, oh, let me buy some Forex in the Canadian US pair. Like, a lot more complex than that. Isn't that against the law, selling seats? No, it's a private company, right? I mean, in some cases they can be public companies, but you can, it's your board. You can do whatever you want with it, right? Yeah, so guys, if this is a surprise to you or it sounds illegal, happens every day. Extremely common practice. Extremely common practice. It's called private placements, right? That's where a company approaches a bank privately and says, hey, you know, we need to raise X number of dollars and this is how we want to do it. Like when you hear about, you know, the rich get richer, that's kind of like, I think I think it's one of the examples of where it starts, because those are things that are never available to the general public, right? Like the general public doesn't even know they exist, wouldn't have the money, wouldn't have the minimums, right? I mean, most private equity investments start at like 500,000 for a single share, right? So yeah, if you guys think this is illegal, far from it. Happens every single day. Very common practice. All right. So that's our client, right? So now we have a little bit of knowledge and we're ready to go into this meeting. So again, it's an exploratory conversation. We don't want to do any significant work for it. We're just talking, right? We're just talking to the client. So what are we going to talk about in an exploratory meeting? Well, we're going to, one of you is going to prepare a deck. I'm going to ask one of you to prepare a deck. And we're going to talk about ourselves. We're going to talk about the company history. We're going to present the executive bios, experience. We're going to talk about recent client projects without actually naming anybody, right? Because you still want to keep that confidentiality. We're going to listen to what the client has to say. Obviously they're calling us in because they might have their own ideas. But we're basically just there to listen. We're not really there to opine on anything. And we're also there to present the methodology that we intend to follow, right? And we can present a little bit about the project management methodology, but we're also there to present our approach to data science, right? And make sure that our approach to data science is fair and balanced and something that the client can get behind, right? So what is that methodology? So in the corner, you're going to find, my book for your first year in data science. I invite you to buy it on Amazon. It's basically intended to help people make that move into professional data science. So, you guys know that I don't sell any cheap courses. I don't beg you guys for money. I don't have a Patreon. So the best way to support me is buying my book. I appreciate your support. But this chart is straight out of that book. And this is the methodology that I advocate for. Because, again, you always want to make sure that you're being guided by a defensible methodology. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go through a data collection process, right? That's where your data engineering tasks begin. We're going to go through a data enrichment process. What are some of the things that go into that can be added to your root data set? How can you enrich the data set? How can you transform the data set? Super important phase that a lot of teams forget. Then we're going to go into an EDA phase, right? Which also contains a visualization phase in there, right? And then we're going to do some ideation. All right, so we did our EDA, we got some visuals to look at. Where are we going with this? From there, we go into model design, right? We know we have a reliable pipeline. We know what our data looks like from an EDA and visualization perspective. Excuse me. We've sat with the client. We presented some potential ideas. They've signed off on those ideas. And now we're ready to work on a model. Right? What did the model tell us? Well, we got to interpret those results. And then you'll notice that there is an arrow here between the results and the model design. That's because there's a little bit of a loop there, right? Just because you have a model doesn't mean it's a good model. So maybe you have to go back a couple times. And you have to visualize different things, right? So there's a little bit of a loop there between interpreting the results and the model design. From there, this is kind of sort of an optional stage, but I find it beneficial to do another visualization step. And then we actually deploy the model. And then later, we can talk about model maintenance. I have another section on model maintenance in my book. But generally speaking, this is going to be the showcase when we go and talk to a client about how we want to develop, how we're going to develop their project. Right? So this is what you're seeing now is the core of what we want to present and say, hey, this is us. These are our executives. This is who we work for. This is some of our example projects. This is the methodology that we feel gets us and you to a solution. And, that's what we'd like to do for you. What do you think? So that, to me, makes for an effective exploratory meeting, again, without doing any significant work for them, because we don't have a contract in place, right? We haven't really created an engagement with the client. We don't have their data, right? But this is what I have seen and I have used, I have received, right? Because I have been both on the giving end and the receiving end of these types of exploratory meetings, right? Does anybody have any questions on the methodology? Because there's a lot happening in this chart, right? But super critical, guys. Super critical. Because this is the stuff that nobody out there is showing, right? They'll tell you, oh, you got to start with Python right away. Well, how can you start with Python if you haven't had the data? If you haven't enriched the data? So many teams go wrong in the data enrichment side. And then how can you go straight to Python in modeling if you haven't had a conversation about the ideation with your client? Right? Like it just doesn't make sense. That's not how you do it in a professional setting. So what do you guys think? There's a lot happening on this chart. Any questions, any feedback? Would love to hear from you guys. So Zeneb is asking, is feature engineering a sort of data enrichment? Yes, absolutely. 100%. I name it data enrichment because it has so many names, right? People call it feature engineering, data wrangling, data transforms, but it's all the same thing, right? You're just trying to not work from the same data set that your client gives you, right? I see this mistake constantly where people say, oh, we got the client data. There's 30 columns. That means we have 30 features to work from. No, that's just the base set, right? Once you do your transforms and your enrichment, you might have less. But typically speaking, you should have more than that, right? I mean, I know it's all data dependent and all that. But if you're just saying, here's 30 columns from the client, here's my 30 columns that I'm doing features on, that is terrible, terrible data science, right? Because you completely have missed that enrichment and the feature engineering and all that. So yeah, it's all this. It's all the same term in there, Zeneb. I just call it data enrichment across the board. Good question. Good question. Anybody else? There's a lot happening on this chart. But again, this is going to be our guiding light towards everything that we want to do. So Leo says, when it comes to data collection, pipelines, etc., what are the technical tools relevant to master? SQL maybe? SQL doesn't hurt, Leo, for sure. It's helpful. But remember, and this is another thing that, again, not a lot of schools teach. And I wrote this in my book, right? Data in the real world, particularly on the collection side, tends to be very messy. It's the messiest when it comes from multiple sources. Because directly to your question, Leo, excuse me, SQL does help, but it's very, very rare where you're going to be on a problem where they tell you, here, we need to work on this, and here is the single SQL database where the data is held. Like, that's basically, the case only like 25% of the time. The more likely scenario is here. We need, here's the project, and half the data is in SQL. 25% of the data comes from these PDF reports. 10% of the data is over in this SAS database, and and everything else we need is a CSV that we get from a vendor. Like that's a much more common scenario. It's never a straight line. I shouldn't say never. It's rarely a straight line to just be able to say, oh yeah, sure, here's the data, go to it. Like that just doesn't happen. So yes, SQL is important, but so is Pandas, so you can read the CSVs. Or maybe the data is coming from an API, so you're gonna have to know how to work that API. You're gonna have to know how to read PDFs, in the PDF libraries. So it's a variety of things, Leo. It's a variety of things. So SQL doesn't hurt, but it's not the only thing you need. So I hope that's clear. But yeah, it helps. But it's rarely the case where, oh, I just wrote some SQL queries and now my pipeline is done. Right. Or if you think of it this way too, right? Like time is also an important factor. Because with SQL, basically you can just say, well, the queries are kind of self-updating because I run the query and the data is there or it's not. Well, what if it's a PDF that arrives every other day, right? How are you going to account for that? Or it's a PDF that arrives every other day, but you also got to account for holidays because the vendor doesn't send the report out on holidays. Now you got to account for that, right? So yeah, it's messy. It's messy in the real world. But that's why it's an entire step, right? Like data collection is never just like a one day task that you just check off on your list, right? If you have to name 3 important tools to have in hand, what would they be? You really can't. There's too many, Leo. It's really just more about you having a flexible mindset, right? Like, I mentioned PDF, CSVs, and APIs, right? Well, you can do all that in Python, but you're going to need different tools in Python, and there's different ways to do that. There's a million libraries to read PDFs, a million ways to access an API, right? So it's really more about you just having like that flexible approach, like that can-do approach. And you're gonna need a couple of Python skills. But there is no, here's the top 3 tools for data collection. It makes for a great Instagram reel, obviously, right? But the reality is that it's more about your mindset to have that flexibility to work across tools and sources. Osama says, is ideation a process of creating, generating ideas to address specific problems using data? Yeah, Osama, sure. It's either about how to address their problems or new ideas that you can give them, right? And that's really the hope, right? Because yes, the client's always going to have their ideas of what they can do with their data. And that's good, right? But the real win, where you really win the contract, is where you can say, I hear you on your ideas, and here's 2 scenarios where we could solve your ideas. But guess what? Our team went to work, and we also found these other 3 things that we can help you solve. And we're confident we can do that, because of our experience, because of our methodology, so on and so forth, right? So it's a little bit of both of those, Osama, right? In other cases, neither one of you may know what's possible, right? You may not know the client's business enough. And maybe they don't know data enough, right? So some of that ideation just turns into like brainstorming meetings. And you can say, yeah, it seems like we have something here, but we need to define it a little better. So why don't we sit down together and figure that out, right? That also happens, right? So yeah, you're not wrong there, Osama, but it can be a combination of a couple of different things. Okay. Is model design where machine learning models come in? Yes. It's not always machine learning, right? It can be other models. But yes, that's actually more where it comes into play. That's where we're going to be doing more of what people say is a data science project. But yeah. All right, great questions, guys. All right, next slide. Congrats, we won, right? The client liked the presentation, and the client wants to start an engagement with us to explore how data science can help them with alpha farming. All right. So let me know in the chat. And feel free to look this up. Feel free to use your employee ChatGPT if you really want. What is alpha farming? What are we doing with alpha farming? Anybody want to contribute there? Let me know. I'll give you guys a minute or so to think about that. What is alpha farming? Rex said, never heard of alpha farming before. That's okay. Let me know if anybody wants to take a guess at that. Is it Farah? Welcome, Farah. I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome. You put your money in different places to make it grow faster. Okay. Okay. That's not a bad way to put it. Is it the act of collecting initial information? No, Leo, it's not. Anybody else? Last call here. Rohit says consistency in information data. No. Is it the analysis of requirements, functional, non-functional? No. Fatima, my good friend Fatima, coming in to save the day. Good job, Fatima. Is about maximizing gains by finding undervalued or overlooked investment opportunities in markets or decentralized platform. Discover new investment opportunities. All right. Now, Fatima, I have a question. Did you look that up or did you know that? Because you're providing an excellent definition. Excellent definition. Yeah. I mean, Fatima's definition is basically right on. A strategy to generate alpha, which is measure of how much an investment outperforms its benchmark. Yep, I'd agree with that. Lakshmi, DS, data science, helping identify profitable investment opportunities and manage risks more effectively. It's not data science dependent though, because alpha farming was available before data science was like, big, right? Not quite. Yeah. But yeah, let's focus on Fatima's answer because, it's very well put. Gaining information about profitable venues for investment. Yeah. So Fatima is basically saying that you're looking for strategies that give you undervalued opportunities, or you're somehow adding something new to your investment strategy. And that's basically what alpha farming is. And you might hear that term, like there's the famous website Seeking Alpha. That's an investment website, right? Because alpha is what's like the general term for outsized returns on your investment, right? So that's why I mentioned earlier, or I asked earlier, about how if you guys knew what private equity and hedge funds do. Because this is basically, this is kind of like their underlying goal, right? The reason private equity funds go out and buy warehouses or veterinary clinics or racehorses is because they think that they can get extraordinary returns than what they would over other investments, right? Like, they don't invest in the stock market because they think they can do better than the stock market by finding alpha. That's basically what they do, right? So again, the way that Fatima puts it is correct, right? Where they'll say, well, we think that buying apartment buildings over the next year, and maybe specifically buy apartment buildings on the East Coast of the United States, is going to bring us, outsized returns than anything else that we could do with our money. Or there's another one that sticks in my mind. I won't mention the brand. There's actually 2 brands involved. Let me see if I can remember that one. Yeah, so you'll get Lakshmi's asking for an example, right? So as an example, right, like one of the private equity offerings that I had read that I thought was kind of funny and interesting. I'm not going to mention the companies, but they're very, very big companies, international companies. But the private equity fund was managed and led by an executive at one of the largest luxury brands in the world. I'm not going to mention, but you would undoubtedly recognize it. But that was his background. He was an expert in luxury brands, like these global luxury brands. And one of the successes that they had mentioned in their presentation was that they had invested in a hot sauce. Again, another international brand. But they felt that investing in this hot sauce would give them extraordinary returns. And it did. But that's what these funds do, right? They take the money and they invest in things that most people don't think about. But this guy saw an opportunity in this international brand of hot sauces, and they did very well with it. But so that's an example of them seeking alpha, right? or doing the alpha farming, where they're looking across multiple industries, multiple countries, and saying, hey, us choosing to invest in this hot sauce is going to do better than anything else that we could do with our money. So Lakshmi, I hope that's an example for you. But like that's, it's like they make these connections that kind of don't make sense, but one, that's part of alpha farming, and two, the fact that they don't make sense is probably why they make so much money, and because nobody else is looking at them, right? So yeah. So that's what alpha farming is, right? So Osama says using various methods such as analyzing market trends, data, or new financial products to find and capitalize on these high return before others. Yeah, but your broker at Charles Schwab's going to tell you that, right? Like all brokers are going to tell you this. They're looking for it in like ridiculous ways. Like I said, I don't want to mention too many brands and all that, but like I've heard some ridiculous presentations, like connections that you would never think about, right? Yeah, I don't want to give any more examples. I don't want to violate any contracts, but like it's more than just market trends and stocks. It's a very deep rabbit hole, as we say here in the US. Okay, so we won. Now we have this contract for alpha farming, which is great, right? We're in this to make money, right? So winning a contract's a good thing, right? But now we have to present them with a contract so that work can begin. Because we don't work without a contract, right? All right. So this is our primary takeaway today. We got to come up with a statement of work. That's basically the name for like one of the contracts that's used when we're doing a consulting engagement. And it's basically a contract that both of us, the client and us, has agreed to work from. It's not really common when you're, like, say if you're an internal innovation team and you're helping out somebody else, like another department, but it's certainly used a lot in third-party consulting. Coming up with a good, you're going to hear also referred to as an SOW. So I use SOW and statement of work interchangeably. Writing a good SOW is part business, part legal, part technical, and it's a little bit of art also. It's not something that you learn quickly. And every company has their own approach to an SOW. It's going to often require an internal review on your part. So one of you would write it, but I would have to review it and sign off on it, because ultimately it's a contract that we're offering to the client. We don't want anything in the contract to be negative, right? And on the other end, it will also require an extensive review by the client, right? That's also very common, because it's a contract for them too that they're signing off on, right? So it's going to take you a while to come up with these in an effective way, but you might also be asked to review them, or you're going to be reading a lot of these. And that's okay, because that's how you get started. I probably wasn't trusted to do my own statements of work, at least from like a blank sheet, until I was like in my like 4th or 5th year of consulting. Like this isn't something that you would give to the new guy, but it's still an important part for all of you to know, right? Like you should still be learning this. Really important skill to know. Andrew says, good morning, or good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too, Andrew. Thanks for joining us. I think it's your first time. I see that you're on Instagram. Feel free to switch over to YouTube so you can see, the screen a little better, but thanks for being here. So here are the general sections that you're going to want in your statement of work. You're going to put in an introduction, a project description, phases. You're going to put in the client responsibilities. You're going to put in the consultant responsibilities. You're going to put in the project scope. You're going to produce a timeline. You're going to produce a payment schedule. And then you're going to have your signatures. Again, what exactly goes into a statement of work differs by company, but generally speaking, these are the sections that I have seen at multiple companies that I've worked at, or multiple consulting situations, or in some cases if I'm doing independent, because I've done that quite a bit. This is like my general outline that I use for my own statements of work when I'm taking on new clients or a new project for a client. Okay? But this is what it looks like when it comes to, saying, hey, I'm glad that we can do work together. Let me present you with a statement of work, and that will enable us to start working together. Okay? So yeah, that's it. That we're going to write this. This is the goal for today's session. We're going to finish today's session with a completed statement of work. So that's what we want to do next. Lawman says, is SOW also prepared by business analysts? Good question. It can be, but generally speaking, it's written more by a technical person. And, maybe I'm wrong on this, but when I hear business analyst, I'm usually thinking of somebody who's a little bit more junior. Typically, I wouldn't give it to a junior person, at least not from a blank page. I would have them review it. I might ask for their feedback. but I wouldn't do it from, I wouldn't ask them to do it from like a blank page. So like, for example, one of the ways that I was started in kind of developing my own was like that my boss would write the statement of work and then he'd send it to me. And then right here, like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. But like right here, he might say, hey, can you fill in this section, the project scope? Or, hey, what do you think about the timeline? Does this timeline sound reasonable to you? Right? So I might ask for their input on things like that. But I don't think you would typically let them start from a blank page. And like I said, I was like 4 or 5 years into my consulting career before I was trusted to do them on my own. And I think that's appropriate, right? Because you won't know, like, for example, like what client responsibilities you should put in there, right? Or what your responsibilities are. So it's helpful for somebody else to kind of like guide you and write that for you. And then you fill in the other parts. So that's more common. Okay? Anybody else have other questions before we get into the actual writing of this? All right, if you have questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. But we have a general framework to work from, right? This makes for a pretty good outline, right? So let's go ahead. How much, Rex asks, how much of this process is general, meaning that it's not just for data science projects? Yeah, great question, Rex. What I have here can absolutely be applied to a lot of projects. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, the text will obviously define it as a data science project. But yeah, I mean, you could be using this for like a software development project, a database install, other things like that, right? But yeah, you could absolutely use it for something else, Rex. And people thinking coding was the hardest part of the process. Yeah, Leo. Yeah, Leo, thanks for making that observation. Because that's really kind of like my underlying message in this entire series, really. Right? Like, when we get to the data collection side, like, data collection is not easy, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's a very small part of it, right? But again, this is what happens in professional environments. I'm trying to help you guys prepare and be able to say, you know, when you walk in your first day, your first month, and you hear about somebody talking about a statement of work, you can say, yeah, okay, I can contribute. I can review it. You need another reviewer on, then I can look at it. I can contribute to the project scope, right? Or the project scope section, I mean, right? Because this is what happens. This is what happens in the real world. You know, and I've been a consultant for IBM. I've done engagements with Hitachi, PwC, Deloitte, a couple others, you know, like this is how it's done in the real world. But yeah, Leo, thanks for the observation. I mean, it's accurate. So I mean, I hope you guys understand, you know, why I get so like I'm so disappointed when I see the stuff about, hey, you want to know data science projects? Learn Python. It's like, no, there's like a million things that go into a data science project, and they have nothing to do with Python, right? Okay, so Sam says, in oil and gas industry, SOW is essential in every project, be it small or big scale. The outline here exactly matches what I usually do for any SOW. Well, yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you for that confirmation. Yeah, you know, really across any industry, most industries, an SOW is a contract. It's a serious document, right? And again, like I said, it's how you get paid, right? We're in business to keep the lights on. So very important to have a well-written SOW. So Sam, yeah, thank you so much for your message. I know you have a little bit more, maybe a little bit more experience than some other people in the chat, so I appreciate your insight. And yeah, I think that this is a fair outline. And to Rex's point, it's a fair outline. And to your point too, Sam, it's a fair outline for any number of industries and engagements. But yeah, I mean, it's a very common thing. Academia is not going to teach you this, right? Coursera is not going to teach you this, but I 100% guarantee you will need this in the real world. All right, so let's get started. Thanks for all the feedback, guys. Great questions. Really appreciate Sam's input. Yeah, so let's get started. We don't necessarily need a title for the introduction. So we'll leave space there. And then we said that our next section was project description, right? Where is my presentation? We said project description. Oh man, come on, Dennis. And then we said client responsibilities, consultant responsibilities, project scope, timeline, payment schedule, and oh man, I keep on losing my signature. Signatures is not complex. All right, I think I saw some more feedback from Sam. So Sam says, except for the fact that technical person myself ended up fighting with contract counterparts. Yeah, that can get messy. That can definitely get messy. So as I mentioned before, typically speaking, you know, at least the way I've had it, you know, I, as the technical person, sign off on the SOW, but then it goes to bosses, you know, maybe it has to go through your legal department, and then your legal department sends it to them, or sends it to them, and then they say, thank you, we'll have to talk with our legal department, and then you basically have like the legal departments and the, you know, the higher up people figure out the contract, right? But to Sam's point, yes, every once in a while you get stuck doing that. Usually not a good practice, right? Because, you know, in those conversations, in those changes to the SOW, you're making obligations, right? You have to live up to what's in the SOW, right? So, yeah, I mean, I hear you, Sam. That does happen, but it's risky, right? Not just for you, but for the company itself, right? Like, you want the legal people to fight it out, not the technical people. But I hear you, Sam. I hear you. Okay, so little bit of formatting here, nothing major. And then I want to come down here. So obviously, if you've noticed, I'm making a mistake, right? I said never start from a blank screen, and I just started from a blank screen. So this might be the only time where I don't want to take an AI first approach, because I think that the introduction sets the tone for the rest of the document. So I want to make sure that we write that as humans, and also because there's a unique format that I'm not confident ChatGPT is going to give us. But we're going to write the introduction, a very quick introduction, and then we're going to let ChatGPT help us with the rest. right? Because AI first, right? So I'm going to show you guys a format that I've used. It's not complex, but I've used, and it kind of sets the tone. Okay. Okay, guys. So actually, I forgot one thing. We need a name for our client. We are Data Science with Dennis LLC, right? That's my company. Our company, right? Because you're my data scientist. We need we need a name for our client. So there's an old joke that maybe some of you don't know. There's an old joke that these private equity and hedge funds, they always follow the same pattern, right? They have a color and then they have like something from nature, right? That's kind of like the joke, right? A color and something from nature. So like, one of the big funds is BlackRock, right? Or there was a fund out there called Blue Owl, right? Like, that's kind of like the joke that if you just come up with a color and something from nature, you can have the name for your private equity fund. So in the chat, while I'm typing this out, give me a name for our client. Okay? So you can use that, you can use that format or use something else, be creative, but that's the typical format. Color, something from nature. Purple Rain? Come on. Pink Elephant. That's funny. Green Hope. Green Hope, I can get behind that. Green Leaf, okay. Indigo. Ooh, Indigo River. That sounds so calming, right? Indigo River, where your money is safe. Gray Clo? I understand the gray, but not the clo part. Pink Elephant, Green Hope, Purple Ox. Purple Ox, that sounds interesting. I don't understand the gray clo though. Black River. Okay. Black River. Gray Cloud. Oh, Gray Cloud is what you meant to. Okay. Gray Cloud. Okay. I don't know if that's a good marketing name though. You can trust your savings to Gray Cloud. I don't know about that. Rainbow Mountain. Blue Stream. Okay. Blue Stream. Anybody else? Amber Sky. Okay. All right, there's some good ones in here. I'm liking Indigo River. Sapphire Wave. Ooh, that's a strong one. All right, last call, guys. Last call for suggestions here. All right, while you guys give them the last ones, I'll do one more thing out here. Alternate. Blue sapphire, emerald forest, purple breeze, golden delight, white lotus. That's a TV show. Blue whale. I think blue whale exists. Red oak. That's a nice one. All right. So let's start narrowing these down, guys. Let's pick some finalists. Give me a 1 for Indigo River. Or give me a 2 for Sapphire Wave. Yeah, let's keep it all water theme. Give me a 1 if you want Indigo River, or give me a 2 if you want Sapphire Wave. I kind of like both of those. They sound so peaceful. All right, we got to vote for Indigo River. A 1 for Indigo River, 2 for Sapphire Wave. All right. Oh, we got a tie. Indigo River is 1, Sapphire Wave is 2. A peaceful hedge fund, what? Well, they gotta be peaceful so that people trust their money there, right? Alright, Indigo River's ahead by 1. Oh, we're tied again. Wow, we're tied again. We're tied, guys. Your vote makes a difference. Wow, Sapphire Wave just took the lead. Nope, we're tied again. Jeez. Casual economist voting a 1.5. You know, it's always those economics guys. I'm telling you guys. It's always the economics guys. All right, guys. The next vote is a deciding vote, guys. Indigo River is 1. Sapphire Wave is 2. You can't vote twice, obviously. All right. So now Indigo River is taking the lead. Anybody else? All right. Indigo River is the winner. Congrats to Ahmed. All right. Okay. So super simple introduction, but I think that it sets an elegant tone for the statement of work, right? For the rest of the document. But all we're basically saying, hey, you know, this is us, this is you, and we're pleased to present the statement of work to you, right? That's a very simple way to kick off the statement of work. Leo says Indigo River sounds like a new age company. Well, that's us. Well, no, that's not us. That's our client, right? We work with new age companies. You know, the cutting edge health and wellness hedge fund, right? Okay. So that's us. That's a simple introduction we want to do, right? Project description. This is where our employee ChatGPT comes back into play, right? Because remember, it's a mistake to start from a blank screen. We got to use we got to have an AI first mentality, right? We'll see what AI gives us, and then we'll improve on it, okay? So now we come back to our prompting skills. And I'm going to use O1 for this. In past sessions, I've been using 4O. And I know a couple of you are giving me that feedback, hey, why aren't we using O1? And so we're going to do it, okay? So setting up our prompts, super important, right? So let me think about this. We're not going to do the whole thing at the same time. We're going to just do it section by section, right? We're going to let the context build up because we're going to give ChatGPT feedback to say, yeah, that was great or that wasn't so great. Can you adjust this? And then it should use that context in future answers, right? Actually, I got to describe the client first. And we'll say that it's a 6-month contract. All right, let's see what ChatGPT gives us. Let me know if you need me to zoom in on anything, okay, guys? All right, it's given us quite a bit here. It didn't honor that we were just looking for the project description. I do like the project description it gave us though. But it seems a little too involved with the objective. Well, the objectives for the project scope is okay. And then scope of work is okay, but it's better for another section. It has a methodology section. It has a timeline section, which is good. So to me, there's elements from here that we can use for other sections, I mean, but probably a little bit too involved for the introduction alone. So let's go ahead and use this. So the important part is that in the introduction, we've also established that consultant will be us and client will be them, right? So here, we can just replace this. If anybody has feedback or things that they catch that need to be adjusted, please let me know. But to me, this seems like a reasonable project description to use for now. What do you guys think? Can we give the structure of phases that we have so that it takes into consideration and asks for each phase on its own? Yes, Yassine. My intent is to put that in the project scope section. But for now, for the purposes of asking ChatGPT, I'm going to focus on asking by sections of the SOW, not by sections of the methodology. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then also, remember, it's a mistake to accept any Gen AI answers wholesale, right? We're always going to make adjustments. And I already saw the places where we can make those changes. So I think we'll be okay. I might give it the sections of the SOW. Oh, okay. Yeah, we could definitely do that. You know what, Yassine? I think you might be right on that. Yeah, I think that's an excellent suggestion, actually. Okay. Well, see, but then again, here's the challenge though. In this project description, it gave us other things. Like for example, it gave the timeline in the project description, which I'm kind of okay with. Well, excuse me, I'm okay with the timeline, but it's just not where ChatGPT put it. But let's give that feedback. Or I'll leave the signatures out of it because there's probably nothing special about that. And I think that was the last section. Yeah, payments good. Okay. Consultant responsibilities, project scope, phase 1. Okay, the project scope we can kind of adjust, right? The timeline, good. Payment schedule, okay, cool. All right, yeah. Shout out to Yassine for giving that suggestion. I think this seems a little bit more reasonable, maybe a little bit more concise too. So nice one, Yassine. I like that. Lalaman says, is the purpose of giving aliases consultant and client for privacy or simplicity? Simplicity. It's for brevity, right? There's no need to keep on repeating the names over and over again. Yeah. Tavares says, hello, very interesting. Well, nice to see you here, Tavares. I think it's your first time, so welcome. You know, I see you're on Instagram. You're welcome to join us on YouTube for a little bit of a better view. Vishal, what are you doing, my friend? Vishal, we're not starting from a blank screen, right? Our employee is doing the writing. Writing it ourselves is not an AI first approach, right? Okay, so I think we can keep the project description that we had initially, right? Because I think this is still a very reasonable project description. So now let's look at what he gave us for client responsibilities. Oh, shoot. I think, yeah. Okay. All right. So a couple of things I want to point out here. One, notice the bulleted structure. That's very, very common in statements of work. So I'm really happy that ChatGPT is giving us that, right? You should try to have bullets so that you can easily refer to the things that you need in the statement of work. Because again, remember, you're never just going to hand this over and then they sign off on it and everybody's happy. You're going to go back and forth. So it's really helpful to be able to say, hey, I have a question in the client responsibilities, bullet 2, what is it? Very, very helpful to do that. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to fill out all of these items and then I'm going to come back and tell you guys what my eye sees. Okay. But for now, let's just go ahead and you know, take what ChatGPT is giving us wholesale, because I think that this is fairly, you know, fairly reasonable from what I see so far. Okay, so that's the consultant responsibilities. We're going to go ahead and bullet that. The project scope. I think that's generally okay. The timeline. The payment schedule seems like a reasonable way to do it. And then the signatures, which is really just literally just lines, you know, one for the client, one for you, and then that's it. So the signatures we're not going to worry about so much. But, I do want you guys to be aware that that is part of an SOW, because again, it is like a legal contract. All right. So I think ChatGPT actually did a pretty good job of guiding us, right? And again, shout out to Yassine for, giving that suggestion. It was a good suggestion. Oh, this needs to be. All right. Vishal says bulleted structure makes it easy for reference. Yeah, that's kind of the point. And like I said, most SOWs have a bulleted structure. Okay, so project description. You're basically, well, actually, let me take a step back. So I know some of you asked about the consultant and client. That's essentially why you have the introduction, right? Because you're establishing those roles. You've put them in the parentheses and in the quotes. From a legal perspective, that's a accepted way to alias these entities, right? And actually here, we should probably add an LP. Some of these firms are limited partnerships. But yeah, so that's why the introduction has that. So we don't need to change that in the rest of the document. Project description, we basically want to make sure that it captures the conversations that we've had with the client, right? What exactly is it that the client wants to accomplish during their engagement? And did we capture that in the project description? That's all we want to know, right? I think that ChatGPT did a good job of capturing that here, right? What do you guys think? But, I don't see a need to edit this. What do you think? Did we capture what we said we're going to do? I mean, you understand what the firm does. We talked about alpha farming, right? What do you guys think? It's also good that we're going back and forth like this, because it's not always one person writing it. Sometimes SOWs, particularly on the larger contracts, is a collaborative effort, right? There's more than one person writing it. Does this look like a reasonable project description, everybody? Uh-oh, did I lose you guys? Are you guys totally lost now in contracts? You're like, what the hell? I'm here for data science. Guys, this is data science. You got to keep the lights on. You got to get paid, right? Farah says, I think it's good. Okay, cool. Yassine says, it looks good to me. Okay, cool. Thanks for that feedback, guys. It's a good place to build upon. Okay, what changes would you make? Because I think it's reasonable just as it is, right? So Lalman, are there changes you would make? Does anybody else have changes they would make? So I want you guys to keep something in mind here. As far as changes or things like that. Matt says, what if we provide some good output we can let the client to anticipate aligning with their expectations? But how do you measure that? Right? How do you measure that, Sam? So here's something to keep in mind, guys. And this is a little bit more of a sensitive topic. Remember that this is a legal contract, right? So you kind of want to measure your words, because anything you write in here is an obligation on your part, right? So don't misunderstand me. You still want to go in there. You still want to do a good job. You still want to deliver the best you can for your client. But be careful. You don't want to overstate things. You don't want to leave things open-ended. You don't want to leave things subject to qualitative evaluation. Right? That's how problems begin. Like legal problems, I mean. Right? Leo's asking, where's the payment agreement? Wow, Leo wants to get paid right away. Jeez. Let's pump the brakes there, Leo. Pump the brakes. Leo wants money right off the bat. Pump the brakes. We're still looking at the description. Right? We're just looking at the description right now, guys. We're going to go section by section. We'll get to the money, Leo. Apparently, Leo wants to get paid right now. Jeez. Guys, don't borrow money from Leo. He's going to want it right back. Jeez. Leo says, lol, give me money. Obviously. Wow. All right. But, keep that in mind, guys, right? Especially, I say that because, you guys are making comments on the description and we're about to go into the client responsibility. So keep that in mind, right? Like, it's a contract. So be careful about what you put in there, especially when it comes to, us, the consultants' obligations, right? Again, you don't misunderstand me. We're going to go in there. We're going to do a good job. And we're gonna get Leo some money because apparently that's what Leo cares about. But just don't leave things open-ended. Don't leave things for interpretation. All right. All right. Let's talk about the client responsibilities. This is going to differ depending on situations. But the number one thing you want to emphasize in the client responsibilities is their participation. You have to make sure that you build in their participation, their feedback, their involvement in helping you by saying, yes, that algorithm works well. No, it didn't. Those results are great. Those results are not so great. So on and so forth. That's what I'm mostly looking for when it comes to client responsibility. The second thing I'm looking for is hardware, right? In most situations, you're not the one providing the hardware. They're the ones providing the hardware. So you want to make sure that not only are they giving you appropriate hardware, but they're also giving you the hardware resources. Because they're not going to give you like admin access on one of their servers, right? You're probably going to have to rely on another person, somebody in the IT department to help you with those types of things, right? So those are the two things that I'm mostly looking for in client responsibilities. Again, that's going to differ based on the engagement and the client and so on and so forth. But that's what I'm aiming for when I'm looking at the client responsibilities. I also like that ChatGPT wrote about the data provision. That's super important, right? If the client is not involved in helping you get data, all of a sudden you got a month-long delay in your timeline, and now Leo doesn't get his money. Leo has to wait a month for his money, right? And apparently none of us want that, right? Who knows? Leo might go postal on us, right? If he has to wait for his money, right? So that's super important. So that's what I'm looking for here, okay? So data provision, supply all necessary historical real-time data, relevant estimate activities. And then I want to put a timeline on it, right? This is to completed and provided within first project. So I want to make sure I put a timeline on access personnel, facilitate meetings with key stakeholders and team members for requirements gathering and feedback. Okay. And then here, this is to include member of the staff providing structure support, timely feedback, provide primaries and approvals each project milestone. That's good, but sometimes you need faster feedback than that, right? So feedback is also to be provided within 72 hours of algorithm results provided by the consultant to client. Right, because this talks about giving feedback, but only at milestone meetings. But if you're in the middle of developing an algorithm, you're going to need it faster than that. So 72 hours gives them 3 days to get back to give you some feedback. So that, I think that's also super important to include. Infrastructure support is availability of for algorithm integration and deployment. Okay, that's a reasonable statement. But I want to make sure I have access quickly, right? So same thing I included here, right? I want to have access within the first 2 weeks. We probably won't need it within the first 2 weeks, but again, don't leave things open-ended. Put a timeline on things. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the client responsibilities phase. What do you guys think? Anybody need to add anything? You guys better hurry up so we can get to the payment so we can get Leo paid. What do you guys think? I think this is pretty reasonable. Sam says, how are the sensitive data transmittals managed to ensure security through encryption and real-time data science business? I assume we don't use just cloud services like MS OneDrive. It depends, Sam. That is client dependent. Everybody has their own approach to data. With financial services firms, they do tend to be a little bit more strict. But other firms are not. And you know, some will use, you know, cloud services, others won't, you know, as far as like the transfers you're asking about. But then again, in this scenario, we are also assuming that we are doing the work on site, right? No data is going to come to us because again, we're asking them to produce the infrastructure. So yeah, it just depends, Sam. It's totally client. Because I'm tempted to say industry specific, but even within industries, every client treats it differently. So there's really just no single answer. Okay, Fatima says that sounds great. Okay, so Fatima's on board with the client responsibilities. Thank you, Fatima. We're going to move on. All right. Consultant responsibilities. So this is us, right? So in this section, danger, right? Because this is where we're creating responsibilities and liabilities for ourselves, right? So danger. Analysis and planning, assess the client access, and we're going to capitalize this. Client's current investment strategies and data opportunities for improvement. Algorithm design, develop, and test advanced data science algorithms tailored to the client's objectives. Okay. Integration, seamlessly incorporate the algorithms into the client's existing systems and workflows. Yep. And conduct training sessions for the client's team. And provide comprehensive documentation. Communication, maintain regular. I want to make a change here of weekly meetings because, you know, it's reasonable to have a weekly update. All right. I'm happy with this section. This section seems reasonable to me. Now you'll notice in the previous section, I was putting timelines on things, right? Do you think we should put timelines here? Let me know. Give me a 1 in the chat for timelines. Give me a 0 to leave it as it is. 1 to add timelines, 0 to leave it as it is. All right, I see a 0, and a 1. Any other votes? Give me a 1 for more timelines. Give me a 0 to leave it as it is. All right, last call for votes. Seeing a good number of votes. Okay. Good number of votes here. Last call. 10 seconds to get your vote in, guys. Okay, more ones. All right. If you answered a 1, to this question, wrong. These are our responsibilities, right? So, you know, a little bit of strategic thinking, right? So now we got to wear our data science hats. Can we really put a limit on the algorithm development? Algorithm development can take a while, right? Do we really want to cap that? Do we really want to add to our liabilities? I don't. Right? So if you answered 0, you know, pat yourself on the back. because you want to leave this as it is. Leave it open-ended. Now, they might come back to you and say, hey, I want to see some more definition here, and that's okay, right? You can go back and forth on that. But why would you want to cap yourself on some of these items, right? You're the one writing the contract. You can put anything you want in there, right? So again, you know, I love this series because it's going to involve business. It's going to involve legal. And guess what? It also involves strategy, right? You cap them, but why would you cap yourself, right? All right. I think you guys know where I'm going with that, right? So Yassine says, one question regarding the objectives. How do we make sure they are clarified and not leave space or misunderstanding or late changes from the client's part? How do we manage that? Leave space or misunderstanding or late changes from the client's part. Well, the misunderstandings part is hard to say because it depends on the level of misunderstanding and the consequences that come from it. As far as the late changes, we're going to add that a little bit in the money section, right? In the payment section, which I know Leo just can't wait to get to. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that one, Yassine. Leo says, not a limit wouldn't be not a limit wouldn't be professional, at least giving an estimated time. Maybe, but this is a legal negotiation, right? Not necessarily a delivery of an algorithm, right? So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Again, this is where it's a little bit more of an art to the statement of work, right? And you know, do you really want to put a cap on algorithm development? Do you really want to put a cap on analysis and planning? So it's a little bit of both, Lee. A little bit of art, a little bit of rationale. But why cap yourself? Why bet against yourself, right? Lallman says, how would you decide on the estimated timeline the client asks? So that's going to be based on your experience. It's going to be based on the amount of data available. It's going to be based on the cooperation from the client. It's going to be based on your staff availability, right? Because ideally you have multiple clients, right? You could have multiple projects going on at the same time. So not really possible to answer, Lallman. It just depends. It's situation dependent. But a lot of it is going to come from your own experience, your own background, your own delivery history. There is no single answer here. Okay? All right. Project scope. And by the way, Yassine, I don't know if this is what you were referring to as far as the objectives. But let me see. Phase 1, assessment and planning, data preparation, algorithm development, testing and validation, integration, training and documentation, project closure. Okay. I think I can be on board with what ChatGPT gave us. What do you guys think? Leo says no, but how the client would track development, what warranty they would have you're not sleeping on the project. So that's what the weekly updates are for, Leo, right? It's totally reasonable to commit to weekly updates. And through those meetings, that is where you can demonstrate progress. That's your, you, the consultants, biggest opportunity to demonstrate that you're moving along, right? And you're still going to have like ad hoc phone calls and things like that, in between the meetings, and the technical people, will also kind of keep in contact with each other, right? But that's the biggest opportunity for them to track the development. And then, like I said, obviously you want to go in there, you want to do a good job, and you want to be prepared for those update meetings, because, you do have an obligation there to show that progress. So that's the best way to make that commitment to the client. To say, hey, we're gonna sit down every week and we're gonna talk about the progress that we've made. So that's your biggest opportunity there, Leo. Because you did notice that I did change that, right? That it didn't specify weekly. But I think that's a totally reasonable thing to include in there and say, hey, we're going to commit to these, every Monday morning or whatever, right? So I hope that answered your question, Leo. Ahmed says, perfect. Yeah, Ahmed, I'm pretty much on board with this, right? Now, keep in mind that some of you may be thinking, well, shouldn't this include the methodology? Maybe, maybe not, right? It's okay to have your own interpretation in the statement of work, but internally or as like a company philosophy, we're still following the data science methodology. And like, for example, data science methodology doesn't always have a training and documentation section, but a consulting contract would, right? Because you can't just leave the client. You gotta guide them. Right? There's got to be like a project handover, right? So yeah, that's okay to do that, right? It's okay to kind of have something like this project scope that kind of sort of follows what you want to do. And in the background, you're still using, your company's methodology, your company's approach. Lakshmi says, how about giving a reasonable time limit and then also explaining the real life scenario beforehand about how algo and analysis may take more time? So Lakshmi, I know that this sounds reasonable, but here's the danger. The danger is that, if there were to be some problems down the road, like some legal challenge that you run into, everybody always comes back to, what does the document say? Because those verbal conversations and like those commitments basically aren't acceptable, right? Like, if we're in a situation, right? If this was a real life situation and I go to the client and I say, yes, I know we have this SOW, but Lakshmi spoke to your technical person and they agreed on this, this, and this. The client's immediately going to say, I don't care. My employee is not authorized to make commitments on my company's part. Our commitment is in the SOW that we signed, period. That's really what it comes down to, right? Because that's the counter argument, that you, Lakshmi, as an employee, don't have the ability to commit our company to something else, just like their technical employee doesn't have the authority to commit the company to something else, right? So that's the danger, that those kind of like ad hoc conversations, they're not a legally binding discussion. Okay. Sam says, is there a way to provide measured metrics to ensure that the model won't behave poorly in given warranty period. Is warranty a common thing in data science for clients' benefit? That's a great question, Sam. Is warranty a common thing in data science for clients' benefit? No. Maintenance contracts are, right? You can offer a maintenance contract, like as an add-on. But as far as a warranty period, no. So one of the things we're going to talk about UAT, which is user acceptance testing. And that's where you set the client loose on an algorithm that closely mimics, well, it does mimic what it would be in production. And that's what they're signing off on. If they sign off and say, yes, the UAT version acts like we want it to, like, that's it. You bought it, right? You bought it. You signed off. You paid for it. You bought it, right? And then you can offer like a maintenance contract beyond that. But as far as like a warranty, no, Sam, that's not common at all. And as far as like a model won't behave poorly, that's what UAT is, right? Because in UAT, you're basically saying, hey, how you see it functioning here is how it's going to function in production, right? Because obviously you want the sign off before it goes to production. But that's really more the generally accepted approach, Sam. Okay. Leo says, have you ever faced a similar situation in your career regarding taking more time than expected to develop something? Yeah, of course, Leo, but not in a consulting basis, more on an internal like assistance basis. But not on the consulting side, no. Okay, so are we all on board with the project scope? I mean, I think Ahmed said he was on board. To me, this seems perfectly reasonable, right? And there's 7 phases. All right, so now let's talk about timelines. Sam says, great to know about UAT. We have FAT and SAT, site clients plan in my industry. Yeah, so it'll be very similar, Sam. It'll be very similar. I'm guessing you have this because you probably have like mechanical parts involved in your software, right? So you want to test it at their factory and all that. But yeah, very similar, right? We're basically saying, hey, we're going to put it in this environment. This environment is exactly what you can expect in production. Try it. Does it work as you want? And please sign off. And that's basically like the end of development, right? All right, so timeline, month 1, initiation and planning, data collection, preliminary analysis, algorithm development, initial testing and refinement, introduction into existing systems, advanced testing and validation. So here, I would want to make sure we can have the algorithm development leak into month 4, just in case. And then we said it would start November 1st. Excuse me, sorry guys. We had that in the introduction, right? And then 6 months, what is that? Is that May 1st? Yeah, I think it's May 1st. May 1st. 5. All right. What do you guys think? So there's a little bit of a timeline effort here, right? So Leo and I think Lakshmi also asked about timelines. Maybe this will be a little bit more to your liking. What do you guys think? I'm tempted you know the same line that we added, continued algorithm. Oh my gosh, Dennis. Algorithm development. I'm tempted to also include that in month 5. Why can't we continue the algorithm during the training sessions, just in case? Leo says, I like it, sounds reasonable. Okay, Lakshmi, what do you think? Lakshmi had some concerns about timeline. What do you guys think? Okay, Lakshmi says good for me too. Okay. So we're basically saying that we can do algorithm development over 2 months. Okay, guys. See? Rex understood the assignment. I love Rex's comment. Good job, Rex. Rex understood the assignment, guys. Sam says, do we explicitly have to mention the months in which how payments must be made? Why don't we go with purely milestone payment term to avoid the penalty from potential schedule slippage? Yeah, Sam, right now we're just looking at the timeline and then we'll talk about the payment schedule. Trust me, Leo cannot wait to get to the payment schedule. So we'll get there. Lakshmi, you're taking me to 3 hours now. We're 10 minutes away from 3 hours. You guys are incredible to stick through this. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate all of you. Okay, so are we okay on the timeline? Are we ready to go to the payment schedule? All right, so let's start talking about the payment schedule. Upon signing, 20% of total execution, monthly payments, 50% of project fee due at the beginning of months 2 through 5, 20% of the total project fee due upon completion and acceptance of all deliverables. Whatever Leo pleases with, I am good. Yeah, apparently Leo's our money guy, right? So Leo, does this payment schedule have your approval? I mean, I kind of like it, right? We're getting paid every month. We're getting paid, November 1st, October 1st, or, November, December, January, February, March, April 1st. And then May 1st is a delivery, and we had another 20%. So, not the worst payment schedule I've seen. What do you guys think? So, for me, there is just one more item I want to add. You always want to include something about change requests, right? Because there are going to be things that pop up that are outside the scope of what you're signing, right? So you always want to include what your hourly rate are. Yassine says, can you please specify what are the things to take into consideration for the payment schedule? Yassine, there's no set formula. It's basically what you and the client can agree on. That's it. I mean, sometimes you're going to find things where it's 50% up front, 50% on delivery, 10% up front, 90% on delivery. You know, it just depends. These terms here are very favorable because, you know, from a company perspective, it provides you consistent income, right? That's not always the case, right? You know, most consulting arrangements tend to be money heavy after delivery, right? So, you know, this one to me is favorable because it kind of helps even out your cash flow, you know, like, and again, I'm just talking from a business side here, right? So that's why I like this one. It provides you the consistent income that other arrangements may not do. But, you know, there is no set formula or legal requirements. It's just what you and the client negotiate. That's it. But yeah, I want to make sure we have a change order there. I'm using 300 USD. That's probably a little bit cheap for somebody like a Deloitte or a PwC. I think that they are a little bit higher than this. But, you know, just as a general rule of thumb, you know, we can just put in 300 USD. But I think that the bigger firms are a little bit higher than this. All right, anybody else? Because basically, guys, that's it, right? The signatures, you know, there's no magic to it. You would just have 2 columns, one for the client, one for you, and a date. You know, there's no magic to doing that one. But this is a pretty good start to an SOW. This is something that I would send to my boss and say, hey, what do you think about this? And they'll have to do some work with legal, so on and so forth. But, you know, this is a pretty good start. What do you guys think? I mean, in my mind, right? Continuing our project. We're ready to send this to Indigo River. So that's where we're going to pick up next time, next series. We're going to say, all right, we have a signed contract in place. Let's start planning out this meeting or this project. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up with agile planning next week and say, okay, we know what we're after. Let's start doing some agile planning. Let's start putting this together. So next week is not going to be about projects. It's going to be about the whiteboard where we're going to go ahead and start working. And I'm going to show you how I did agile planning at IBM. Leo says me likely. Okay, cool. Well, if we have Leo's approval, then that's all we need, right? We have gone 3 hours, guys. You guys are amazing. I cannot believe how amazing you guys are. Thank you so much for that. But hey, last call for questions, last call for comments. Look, I get it. I get it. You were expecting Python, you were expecting libraries, but trust me when I tell you that this is how professional data science is done out there. You need these skills if you're going to go out there and work in the data science world. Okay? Any last closing questions or comments? Give you guys about 30 seconds for that. And then we're going to wrap up here. Lalman says, great content. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Just trying my best, guys. Trying my best. But, you know, this is kind of like the content I'm going to be giving you guys. Sam, thank you so much for staying up for us. 1 a.m. in Thailand. Thank you so much, Sam. Really appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Grateful for knowledge. Cool. Yeah, thank you. Really glad you enjoyed it, Yassine. Yassine, are they teaching you this in school? Are they showing you this in your academic classes? They're not, right? I could ask the same question of Fatima. They're not. They're never going to teach this stuff, right? But I'm giving you the real world view here. Lalman says I have a question. I'm listening. Go ahead, my friend. Let me know. But otherwise, we're ready to go for the next portion, right? Could you please put a copy of this? Yeah, I'm gonna find a way to share this out. Okay. Adam, welcome to the stream. Yeah, Leo, thanks so much for that feedback. All right, guys, 3 hours. You guys are amazing. We're gonna continue this series next Sunday. We're gonna pick up with agile planning, right? We got a contract in place. We're ready to work. What are we doing? We're gonna do agile planning, right? We got to know where we're going, right? So thank you so much, guys. Again, so many crazy things happening in the world. So please take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.